Hey there, folks, and welcome to another episode of Crit Hit Interviews. I'm Arlyeon, and we're here today with Şamlı.
Yes, Aral.
There we go. Of Zoetrope Interactive, the folks behind Conarium, as well as the Darkness Within series. To kick off most of our interviews, I like to ask questions to all the devs, just to find out a bit more about the people behind the games. So first off, what would be your favorite game, and what have you been playing recently?
Actually, my brother and I are an avid adventure gamers, so my picks are Sanatorium, Morpheus, Ludic, and the Dracula series. I like them well, and I like playing adventure games. But recently, I cannot find time to play more games, more adventure games. Game I played is Witcher 3, which is an awesome game. I'm loving it so far, but I cannot progress within the game. I cannot find time to play. But Witcher 3 is the last game I played.
So incidentally, is your fondness for like the adventure game sort of genre what influenced your decision to work on that style of game?
Early LucasArts games was the prime example for our developing interest in adventure games. My brother and I, as I said before, was adventure gamers and avid adventure gamers. We love playing them. We love solving puzzles. Black Dahlia was the game that we are inspired a lot. We need to develop a game similar to Black Dahlia. Our journey started with the Black Dahlia.
So would you say that got you into game development, or was it something else? And was that always something that you wanted to do?
Actually, it kickstarted us. We just played, and it was an awesome adventure game. It has a terrific atmosphere. So we think that it would be great to create a game like Black Dahlia. It create an atmosphere similar to it. So first, starting our journey, we tried to create a similar game to Black Dahlia.
So how did you meet the other folks at Zoetrope? Zoetrope?
Yeah, Zoetrope. Actually, Cthulu Interactive, we were working on game development. We met in 1999 exactly. The first game three of us worked on was a personal project of Galip, our programmer. It was called Slashers, a fighting game. Back then, my brother and I had a simple but inspiring adventure game project. Some basic tools and game engines. We tried to create something, prototype it, but it was buggy as hell. So it proved that we need to learn game development more and more. That was the first prototype of Darkness Within games. So we spoke to Galip, our programmer, about the project, and he agreed to help us at the very beginning of Zoetrope Interactive.
So what sort of skills has game development required you to put to use, as well as just how did you develop those skills over time?
Game development is really hard. Actually, all is interconnected, and being an indie game developer require a lot of disciplines to master. Skills in 3D content creation over the years, and it helped us creating stuff we need to create and boosting the atmosphere of our games. Important to create visually what you're imagining. Other than that, we put some attention to the SFX and sound design. Another important aspect of game development, and if you want to create a compelling atmosphere, you have to put some attention to the sounds. It was really hard to master all those, and I can say we mastered them. We developed a lot of skills to use in our games, and lastly, Conarium was one of them. We put our skills to test.
Fair enough. Unlike, well, starting towards this note, so first of all, the games that Zoetrope have released as so far have been thematically horror games, and more specifically seem to pay homage to the Cthulu Mythos. What led to this specific decision, and is it one that will continue to be carried forward into future Zoetrope titles?
My brother and I inclined more on the decadent literature or weird literature, Edgar Allan Poe, Lovecraft. In this regard, reading H.P. Lovecraft in our years definitely shaped our imagination a lot, and we developed interest into his writings. We especially love the way he used intertextuality. I mean, he's linking his stories with the world mythologies. It's a really important factor why we love Lovecraft and his stories. I just think he's cool to create a game based on his mythos.
Understandable. I mean, I admit I'm a little bit vague at times when I say Cthulhu Mythos, because I also recognize that by its nature, a lot of other authors started to build on top of it as well.
Yeah.
Which has been a very interesting thing, and it's neat to see what people who write and who create games build on top of those established ideas.
Actually, it's really hard to develop a game based on a literary work, but I think we developed some skills to continue to develop our games. But again, it's really a task to cope with. We just try to doing something nearly impossible, maybe.
Yeah, Conarium was rather specifically based around the Mountains of Madness story. So, what inspired your decision to visit the elements of that particular story, and how did Conarium as a whole come to be?
It was one of the most acclaimed stories, and I love every aspect of At the Mountains of Madness. I was discussing with my brother to create another game after Darkness Within series. It was the first option we considered. So naturally, at the moment, we discussed at the moment doing creating an amount of metals. So we knew it's extremely difficult to create it as a virtual narrative form. So we thought it would be better to make the game set after the original story. But yeah, at the Mouth of Madness was one of the most highly acclaimed story of his, and I love At the Mountains of Madness. I can't say it enough.
Yeah, having mentioned Darkness Within, the format of the games have evolved tremendously from the initial titles with The Darkness Within to its sequel and then to Conarium. What led to this change, and will the overall format of the games continue to evolve between titles?
Actually, back then, adventure genre was becoming less and less popular, and people developed interest in other genres more than adventure genre. So we thought it might be a good idea to change our static gameplay we use in Darkness Within 1, a pre-rendered game, to a more dynamic and real-time one. This is the reason behind the decision.
So, then another aspect, which you just partly mentioned, that's changed between the games is the style of graphics, from that pre-rendered aspect to the appearance change for Darkness Within 2, and then the very clear difference in graphics between Darkness Within 2 to Conarium. What led to the decision to make those aesthetic evolutions, and how did it impact your workflow?
Creating a 2D, two-dimensional game is more easy to make rather than a real-time 3D game. My brother and I always fascinated by the three-dimensional modeling. We were to look out for new possibilities for narrative direction. We thought 3D would be a great opportunity to tell fictional stories. So this is the main reason why we switched from 2D to 3D. And also 3D gives more rooms for developers, and doing it all in 2D, the game based on 2D stuff, 2D images, really painstaking and really hard to change anything while developing the game. So making all the game in 3D helps a lot.
So, what inspired the artistic direction for Conarium specifically?
Actually, it was is one of the most acclaimed stories. I like the Bioshock games. I don't know if you play the games, but
Oh, yeah.
yeah, Bioshock was the game that inspired us aesthetically. In level design perspective, it was an awesome game. Two people working on the graphical asset creation side, so we knew it would be extremely hard to create similar visuals like Bioshock, but I think we prevailed at the end. We put too much attention to create similar visions to Bioshock games, so that was our initial reason.
So, how long did that take you comparatively to the asset creation of Darkness Within 2, for example?
We developed Darkness Within 1 in almost about 3 years. Darkness Within 2 takes our 2 years. It takes 2 years to complete. It was a really hard move to go with, but not as hard as Darkness Within 1, because we don't have any experience before that game. It was our first game, so we don't have any experience to build on top of our previous anything. So it was Darkness Within 2 or simpler to create than Darkness Within 1, in my humble opinion.
Okay. And how did Conarium, how long did that take compared to, say, Darkness Within 2? Because there was a very large jump in, I suppose, the quality of the modeling and the details.
Actually, over the time, most of the things have changed. So, in graphical aspects, Unreal Engine helped us a lot. Back then, we used our proprietary engine we call C-Page. Doing it, a custom engine cannot give you enough room to develop or extend the visual quality. So, because you have to focus on the gameplay, but not the visual side of things, because we are just, as I said before, we're just three people working on the game and we have no prior experience. In Conarium, we have skills to create something compelling. And we developed that within two. We have lots of experience in that area in 3D modeling. With Unreal Engine, the power of Unreal Engine, we could create something. We knew we can create something more powerful than that within two. I think yeah, we prevailed.
Alright, so focusing more on the gameplay aspect here, Conarium's a horror game, but it isn't heavily reliant on jump scares, more closer to focusing on building tension and a mystery. So could you provide some insight into how you tried to stay true to the essence of not just horror, but specifically Lovecraftian horror, and how this played out in your game design choices?
Actually believe it is extremely hard to recreate a non-visual medium in a visual form. So we thought it would spoil the atmosphere with trying to visualize things that should be left alone. So I think that led us to closer to his to Lovecraft's narrative style. It's hard to create adaptation of a literary work into movies and games. It takes so much thought and consideration to create something truly appreciated. That's why we need not to create an actual horror game, but more like psychological horror. You don't have to show player everything, leading most of the things to their imagination us a lot in that respect.
So, what was the hardest challenge when making this game?
I can say that it was abiding the time constraints we set beforehand because we are very small in the team, consisting of only three people. We had very heavy loads on our shoulders. Other than this, making everything consistent was really hard for us, short of manpower. It makes us work even harder to balance the game and polish it more.
Is there anything that didn't make it into the game that you really wanted?
Yes, we wanted more Shoggoth encounters. Actually, we initially planned to include Shoggoths roaming in the halls of the derelict city.
Oh god.
Yeah, because of the time constraints and some technical problems, we ended up adding only one Shoggoth, and it was unfortunately scripted. But we needed to create free roaming Shoggoths in that halls. Yeah, we pretty much created everything we wanted to create.
Yeah, okay. So, what's the aspect of Conarium you're the most proud of then, having released the game?
We're proud of its graphical and oral fidelity, the sound fidelity, and the Lovecraftian tone of mood we set. It's near to impossible to recreate scenes of the novella, so we set the game before what happened to the story. It gave us more creative freedom, in my humble opinion. So we don't want to spoil the imagination of the players who read the story.
Alright. Is there any particular content updates or features or ports that you may be currently considering implementing for Conarium?
We think we tell what we wanted to tell, and expanding stuff might ruin the fun because we didn't plan to create a DLC or anything at start. So I think it will be great to move forward with the new project. That will be more sense.
Okay, so on that new project, are there any specific Lovecraft stories or concepts or even stories of other associated sort of horror mystery writers like Poe which you intend to pay homage to in future titles? And would you care to talk about the new project you're working on?
Actually, yes, I love doing a lot Edgar Allan Poe narrative. It will be great fun, actually. Maybe in the near future, we might consider creating another Lovecraft tale, such as Shadow Out of Time, which is one of the most brilliant story I've ever heard. It's really extremely hard to adapt that story into the game, so we would need to expand our team if we consider doing it. And at the moment, we have some plans in the future, but that might not involve Zoetrope entitled. But I cannot disclose more information regarding this. But in the near future, we'll have something to share with you. Right now, we're still working on the console versions of the game and plan to release Xbox and PlayStation 4 versions next fall. Are still full with Conarium, I can say.
Okay. So is it going to continue being like in the adventure game genre?
Yes,
Okay. So beyond that, do you have anything you'd like to share with the audience or words you may have for aspiring developers?
I want to say that if you are a game developer, please don't lose hope and do what you think is best. That is one of the most important aspects of creating something. Never give up, never give in, because developing a game is really hard. And if you're now developing a game, you know what I mean. So all I can say is that continue with what we are doing right now before this opportunity.
Okay, so have any final words then? Just for the audience at large or the like?
Actually, no.
Okay, well, first off, thank you for actually taking the time to appear on the show today. It's highly appreciated. And it was a pleasure to sort of pick your brain and find out a bit more about the game at large.
Thank you so much, actually, for this opportunity to think of what we're going to do and what we've done so far. Thank you so much.
Hey, I'm glad to provide a platform. To the folks watching, you can buy or wishlist Darkness Within, both 1 and 2, or Conarium on Steam. For news, there's at Conarium Game on Twitter, plus they have a website that you can check out with links in this video's description, which would be both zoetrope-interactive.com and conariumgame.com. Is there anywhere else you'd care to send people?
Yeah, that would be cool. That would be
Beautiful.
cool.
In that case, to you folks watching, first off, just thanks for viewing this. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to hit the like button and comment. I do try and get back to people whenever I see anything. Beyond that, hit that subscribe button and the bell and you'll get to know when we are next making a video. Whether it be one of the crit hit interviews like our current one right here, or the crit hit versus or podcast segments. Anyways, I'll catch you folks next time. See ya. See ya.